Phuket, I mean, it's practically synonymous with paradise, right? But what if those turquoise waters and white sand beaches could also be, well, a gold mine?
It really is a hot market.
Yeah. Today we're doing a deep dive into Phuket's real estate market.
People are really catching on to the potential there.
From what I've read and heard, it seems like the potential is as vast as the ocean views.
It really is. Phuket's real estate scene is just sizzling right now. It's attracting investors from all over the world, I mean, everywhere. And I know we'll get into this more later, but you can't just, like, book a one-way ticket and expect to get rich quick.
Right, it's not one of those gold mines.
Exactly. Making informed decisions, that's key here. That's what's going to set you up for success in this market.
And that's what we're here for, to unpack all that.
Let's do it.
So our sources all seem to agree Phuket real estate is hot, hot, hot. But it's not just about, like, how pretty it is, right? There's more to it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Scarcity, that seems to be a huge factor.
Definitely. Phuket being an island.
Yeah.
That means there's only so much land to go around.
Limited edition.
Right, so you've got this limited supply, and then you've got, like, this ever-increasing demand, which naturally just keeps pushing those prices higher.
It's wild how geography and economics, like, all kind of comes together.
It really is.
And speaking of economics, our sources mentioned a 10% surge in property prices recently.
Wow.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And some areas were name dropped specifically, Patong, Laon, and Katakaran. What makes these locations so special?
Well, Phuket's a really diverse island. So the real estate market kind of mirrors that. You were just saying those names. So Patong, that's where you go for the nightlife. So it attracts a lot more of those short-term vacationers.
Party people.
Yeah, exactly. But Laon, that's more your luxury crowd. We're talking high-end villas, amazing views, peace and quiet.
Our sources actually mentioned a specific development in Laon Best Luxury Villa, I think it was called. What's that all about?
Oh, yeah, places like that, those really tap into this whole other level of clientele. These buyers aren't just looking for a place to crash for a week. They want the full experience. They want the high-end amenities, the top-notch security, that attention to detail, everything.
So it's about tapping into what that specific buyer is looking for. But are we just talking like super expensive villas here? What about people who don't have millions to throw around? Are there options for them in Phuket?
Totally. Like I said, Phuket's real estate is diverse, just like the island itself. So there's something for pretty much every budget. Condominiums, especially in those well-connected areas, they're a popular choice, especially for like short-term rentals. Then, of course, you got your commercial properties, shops and restaurants, stuff like that. Always a good option.
So many options. So I guess this is where that whole strategic planning thing comes in, huh?
100%.
What should people be thinking about when deciding what kind of property to buy in Phuket?
First things first, what's your timeline? How long are we talking about here? Are you looking to cash in quickly, or are you playing the long game? Then, location, location, location. Beachfront is tempting, but how close are you to everything else? Like amenities, transportation, that's all got to factor in.
So far, we've got location, we've got property type, what else?
And don't forget what you actually want to do with the property. Rent it out, sell it later for a profit, live there yourself. Big decisions.
It's like putting a puzzle together.
Kinda, yeah.
So let's say you've found the perfect property, you've thought about location, you know how you're going to use it, but it needs a little, I don't know, sprucing up.
Right, renovations.
Yeah, exactly. Our sources mention those. Even something as simple as a fresh coat of paint can make a difference.
Oh, for sure. It's amazing what a little aesthetic upgrade can do. A fresh coat of paint, some updated fixtures, modern furniture. It shows people that you care about the property. Makes it more appealing. And you know what's really big right now?
What?
Sustainability. People, especially I'd say the younger generations, they really care about the environment. So if you can showcase your property as eco-friendly, that's huge.
Solar panels, all that.
Exactly. It's not just a trend. It's like the future of real estate,
Yeah.
especially in a place like Phuket.
It's interesting how all these little details play into the bigger picture. What other details do people often overlook?
Good question. One thing that comes to mind, high-speed internet. It sounds simple, but people working remotely, they need that reliable connection. And Phuket's becoming super popular for digital nomads, so having that high-speed internet really sets you apart.
Okay, so you've got your property, you've renovated it, it's eco-friendly, it's got amazing internet. What's next? How do you actually start making money?
Well, that's when you got to start thinking about your exit strategy.
Meaning.
Meaning,
Yeah.
what's your plan? Are you going to hold on to the property for a while, hoping it increases in value? Or are you looking for a quick turnaround, buy low, sell high kind of thing?
Or, you could become one of those Phuket rental moguls we always hear about, sipping cocktails on the beach while the rent checks roll in.
Well, I mean, it's not quite that simple, but
Of course not.
but the rental market in Phuket is really something else. Short-term rentals, especially during those peak seasons, can be very, very lucrative. And then you've got your long-term rentals, which, those are a little bit more stable, attracts a different kind of crowd too.
So, whether you're picturing yourself sipping cocktails on your beachfront property or you're envisioning a steady stream of rental income, it seems like Phuket has a path for everyone. But, and I think this is important to emphasize, careful planning is key. You can't just wing it.
Definitely not.
But let's not get too caught up in those idyllic images just yet. We've got to address the other side of the coin, risks.
Right, of course.
What are some of the potential downsides investors should be aware of? What could go wrong? We've talked about all the great things about investing in Phuket, but I imagine there are some unique things about this market that someone should know before they, jump in head first. What should our listeners be prepared for?
One thing that comes to mind is the pace of things. It's definitely different from, say, investing in a big city.
How so?
Well, Phuket moves a little slower.
Makes sense. It's island life.
Exactly. Things might take a bit longer,
Mhm.
like transactions, paperwork, and the communication style is a bit more laid back, which can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on your personality.
It's about embracing that slower pace of life.
Exactly.
But that doesn't mean the market itself is slow moving, right?
No, not at all.
Okay, good to know. Our sources mentioned something about different ownership structures, something about leasehold versus freehold. Can you explain that?
Yeah, so that's a really important one, especially for anyone who's not from Thailand. Leasehold is the most common type of ownership for foreigners. Basically, it's a long-term lease, usually for 30 years, and you can renew it. Freehold means you own the land and the property outright.
So freehold is like what we're used to in a lot of Western countries, but leasehold is more like a really long rental agreement.
Kind of, yeah. And freehold properties, they're harder to come by for foreigners, and they usually cost a lot more. With a leasehold, you still get the benefit of any increase in the property value, and you can rent it out and all that.
So it's all about weighing your options and seeing what works best for your situation.
Exactly.
So let's say someone is really interested in investing in Phuket. Where should they even start?
Well, the first thing is to really figure out what you want. What are your goals? Are you looking for a second home, a place to retire someday, or a pure investment? Once you know that, you can start doing some research, check out different locations, see what kind of properties are available, get a sense of the prices.
So lots of online research.
Definitely. There's so much information available online these days. Real estate websites, forums, blogs, it's all out there.
And once you've done that initial research, is it a good idea to reach out to local experts?
Absolutely. Getting in touch with a local real estate agent who really knows Phuket is super valuable. They can give you those insights that you just can't find online. Stuff about market trends, neighborhoods, and all the legal stuff that you need to know.
Because the legal side of things can be kind of intimidating, especially in a different country.
Right, exactly. A good agent can make the whole process a lot smoother.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's switch gears a bit and talk about something that seems really important in Phuket: sustainable development.
Definitely a hot topic these days.
Our sources mention that more and more properties are being built with sustainability in mind. Is this just a trend, or is it something more significant?
Oh, it's definitely more than just a trend. Sustainability is becoming a really big deal in Phuket. Think about it. The island's beauty is a huge part of its appeal, right?
Yeah.
So preserving that beauty, it just makes sense. We're seeing a lot of developers incorporating eco-friendly features into their projects.
That's awesome. But are these features just selling points, or are they really making a difference?
I think it's a bit of both. Some developers are genuinely committed to sustainability, and it's reflected in their designs. They're using things like solar panels, rainwater harvesting systems, natural ventilation, stuff like that.
So for someone who's thinking about investing, what's the benefit of buying an eco-friendly property?
Well, for one thing, it appeals to a certain type of buyer or renter. More and more people are looking for eco-friendly options these days. Plus, those features I mentioned, they often mean lower operating costs, so you're saving money on things like energy and water bills.
It's like that win-win situation everyone's always talking about. Good for the planet, good for your wallet.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say someone hears all this and they're thinking, great, but how do I know if a developer is actually being eco-friendly or if they're just trying to make a quick buck?
That's a fair question. One thing to look for is certifications. There are organizations that certify buildings based on their sustainability, like LA or EDGE. So if a property has one of those certifications, that's a good sign. And don't be afraid to ask questions. A developer who's truly committed to sustainability will be happy to tell you all about their practices.
Transparency is key. Now let's shift gears again and talk about something that can be a bit daunting for anyone investing in a foreign country: the legal stuff. What are some of the things our listeners should know about navigating the legal landscape in Phuket?
The biggest thing is understanding the rules around foreign ownership. We touched on this earlier, but foreigners can own condo units outright, but owning land is a bit more complicated.
So it's a good idea to talk to a lawyer who specializes in Thai real estate.
Oh, absolutely. They can guide you through the process and make sure everything's done by the book.
Okay, so you've got your lawyer, you found a property you love. What about actually buying it? Are there any big differences compared to what our listeners might be used to?
Well, one thing that's really important is the sale and purchase agreement, the SPA. It's a legally binding document that outlines all the details of the sale, payment schedules, everything. You definitely want a lawyer to look over that before you sign anything.
So no rushing into things.
Exactly.
Okay, last but not least, let's talk about money. What about taxes and fees? Are there any specific to Phuket that investors need to know about?
Yeah, there are a few. You've got your transfer fee, which is usually around 2% of the property value. And then there's stamp duty, which is usually 0.5%. And if you're doing a leasehold, there's a lease registration fee. Plus, you've got your yearly property taxes.
So those costs can really add up on top of the actual price of the property.
They definitely can. That's why it's super important to have a clear budget for the beginning and factor in all those extra costs.
And probably a good idea to talk to a financial advisor too.
Definitely a smart move. They can help you figure out things like currency exchange and make sure you understand all the financial implications.
Welcome back. We've talked a lot about the ins and outs of Phuket real estate, but now I'm really curious, how does someone actually get started?
Well, like with any big investment, it all starts with a plan.
Okay, so what's step one?
Step one, and this is crucial, is setting a realistic budget. It's easy to get carried away when you're looking at those gorgeous Phuket properties, trust me.
I can imagine.
But you got to know your limits. Don't overextend yourself.
Budget check. What's next?
Next, you got to ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve here? What are my investment goals?
Okay, so are we talking short-term rentals like those vacation properties or something more long-term?
Exactly, because how you approach those two scenarios, it's going to be totally different. Right, short-term rentals, that's all about maximizing occupancy. You want to be close to the action, near those popular beaches, tourist spots, all that. But long-term investments, you might be looking at quieter areas, maybe something with good schools nearby if you're thinking about families. It's all about what you're trying to achieve.
And that's where knowing those different neighborhoods in Phuket really comes in handy. Our sources mention Patong, Leon, and Kamala. What should people know about those areas?
Well, Patong, that's your party central. It's lively, it's energetic, there's always something going on. Great for those short-term vacation rentals, but maybe not the best fit for everyone long-term. Leon, that's a different vibe altogether. That's where you go for luxury and privacy, those stunning villas, secluded beaches. It's a whole other world.
It's amazing how each area has its own unique character. Okay, let's say someone's decided on short-term rentals. What are some things they can do to really stand out in that market?
One thing I always tell people, think about who you're trying to attract. Who's your ideal renter?
Good point.
If you're targeting families, maybe you want a property with a kid-friendly pool area. Couples, think romantic balconies, ocean views, digital nomads. Got to have that lightning-fast internet. It's all about anticipating their needs.
Love that. It's about going the extra mile. What about the actual, marketing side of things? Any tips there? Oh, absolutely. Photos are huge. You need professional quality photos that really showcase your property in the best light. And your descriptions. They have to be compelling. They have to highlight what makes your place special. Maybe you offer extra services like airport pickups or something.
So it's about creating that whole experience.
Exactly.
Now, let's talk about those investors who are in it for the long haul. Those who see their Phuket investment as more than just a financial decision.
Ah, those are the ones who really get it. They understand that Phuket is more than just a place to park your money. It's a lifestyle.
A lot of people dream of owning a piece of paradise.
And they can. It's about finding that sweet spot where a smart investment intersects with a personal dream.
What advice would you give those investors who are looking for that deeper connection? I always say, come experience Phuket for yourself. Don't just rely on pictures and websites. Spend some time here, walk the beaches, explore those different neighborhoods, try the food, talk to the locals. Really get a feel for the place.
It's about following your heart as much as your head. But, dreams aside, we can't forget about risk. We've mentioned it a few times, but any final words of caution for our listeners?
Anytime you invest, especially in a foreign country, there are going to be risks. Markets change, regulations change, unexpected things happen. The best thing you can do is be prepared. Do your research, talk to experts, and don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Solid advice. Well, I feel like we've covered a ton of ground in this deep dive. From market trends and legal stuff to sustainable development and investment strategies, it's been quite a journey.
It really has. But remember, this is just the beginning. There's so much more to discover about Phuket real estate.
That's right, our deep dive is just one small step. For anyone listening who's feeling inspired to take the next step, what would you say to them?
I'd say go for it. Phuket is an amazing place to invest. Just go in with your eyes wide open, be prepared to put in the work, and don't be afraid to ask for help along the way. And who knows, maybe I'll see you on the beach someday soon.
I love it. From both of us here at the Deep Dive, thank you so much for joining us. Until next time, happy investing.